Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm Quinn Leese. Joining today is Christy Stewart. You know, we've been on break for the past few months, but we're coming back to a new semester.
Yes, we are. And we're starting off with a very interesting episode tonight. We have features on Gozar, a moose in a house, and a landslide in Utah.
And as always, we'll check on the climate wall with Lydia later. But first, here is Update in the Air. The satellite formerly known as Gozar has transmitted its first images back to Earth, and they are amazing. From the details of the face of the moon to the incredible resolution of the cumulus over the Caribbean, these first pixels portray a sunny future for NOAA's new GOES 16 satellite. Meteorologists are in awe. This release coincided with the first day of the American Meteorological Society's annual meeting this past week in Seattle. The GOES-R satellite has 6 instruments, 2 of which are weather-related. The Advanced Baseline Imager, developed by Harris Corporation, is the camera that looks down on the Earth. The picture it sends back will be clearer and more detailed than what's created by the current satellites. The other weather instruments by the Global Lightning Mapper will continuously track and transmit all lightning strikes across North America and its surrounding oceans, developed by Lockheed Martin. It can detect the changes in light on Earth and thus the rate of intensity of lightning in thunderstorms and hurricanes. GOES 16 is expected to go into operation in November, approximately 1 year after its launch.
Have you ever noticed how eerily quiet it gets after a snowstorm? Come to think of it, I haven't noticed it too much here in Pennsylvania, but growing up in North Carolina, I would notice it every time after a snowstorm. Maybe that's because everything shuts down out there. Well, as it turns out, that calming silence comes from the snow acting as a sound barrier. In fact, 50 to 90% of sound is absorbed after a fresh snowfall. Light, fluffy snow dampens the most sound waves because it is the most porous, acting almost like foam. The higher the frequency of the sound, the better absorbed it is, and the deeper the snow accumulation, the more absorption there is. You can begin to notice some sounds being dampened with only an inch of accumulation. But if you like silent nights, don't start wishing for snow just yet. As the snow structure changes through melting and refreezing, it actually increases the noise in the surrounding environment because sound waves are reflected instead of absorbed when it isn't as porous anymore.
It's been a rough winter in the American West with heavy snowfalls that are causing trouble for even the hardiest of locals. Take, for example, the Idaho moose. Like a lot of wildlife in the area, it proudly meandered early Saturday into the town of Haley in pursuit of food, according to the Blaine County Sheriff's Office. It ended up tumbling down a window well and crashing into the carpeted basement of a house, which, to be fair, looked pretty cozy. Sheriff's deputies, police officers, and Idaho Department of Fish and Game Senior Conservative Officer and Alex Head were called to the scene at about 2:30 in the morning. They tried to coax the animal up the steps, but the moose wasn't having none of it, charging the officers several times, according to Josh Rose, a Fish and Game Regional Conservative Officer, wrote on the department's website. The authorities ended up sedating the female moose, who fittingly slipped into a more mellow state near the Bob Marley Wall tapestry.
The beastly winter in the West has proven harsh on the natural wildlife in parts of Idaho, Oregon, and Wyoming this year. With one storm after the other pummeling the region, food sources have been buried and temperatures have often remained below freezing. Aside from antelopes and deer falling on slick terrain sustaining injuries, the wildlife are foraging for food in nearby towns. Many locals try to feed these wandering animals, but that can actually hurt the animals more by disrupting their natural diet. Cougars have been eating people's pets and chickens, resulting in officials having to kill 5 cougars already. Antelopes chowed down on local toxic shrubbery, killing 50 of them so far. Wolves and coyotes are enjoying this harsh winter a bit more than others because they are more agile in the thicker snow, allowing them to travel further distances and prey on the deer or antelopes that slipped on ice. Officials in these states have been forced to begin emergency feeding big game 3 weeks earlier than usual. It's not all bad news, though. This extra snowfall and rainfall in California has helped reduce the drought, and flooding has begun to save threatened salmon.
It's official. The deluge of rain that soaked California in the recent weeks has washed away the worst instances of the drought in the state, according to an analysis released Thursday. While none of the state of California remains in the worst category known as exceptional, the drought continues in the south and central portions of the state, the U.S. Drought Monitor said. However, there are a major improvement shown in just the last week to a series of storms that produced substantial precipitation statewide. Yet the San Francisco Bay region and most northern counties in the state are now considered drought-free, according to the monitor. Statewide, the average snowpack, which is essentially a water storage, is almost twice the normal level for late January, according to the weekly monitor. This is a significant snowpack surplus, about 30% of California's water, particularly in the spring and summer months.
In 2014, the land liquefied over North Salt Lake, Utah. Now, just over 2 years later, residents fear they might be in danger of another landslide. Last week, movement was detected after rain and rapid snowmelt occurred, increasing instability. A tremendous 4 feet of movement, both horizontally and vertically, was noted. After the first landslide in 2014, officials built a wall to stabilize the land and put in pipelines to drain the water. Only 2 years later, and the wall has already begun pushing away and the pipelines have been ruptured. Officials say there is currently only surface movement and no major movements have occurred under the surface. City Manager Ken Leatham says he thinks the worst has already come, but with many unrepaired cracks near the top of the slope from the original landslide, residents of North Salt Lake are concerned. Officials said they will continue to monitor the area. Welcome back to the show, everybody.
We now have a great feature on winter weather forecasting.
Are you ready for scenes like this again, or do you still miss Indian summers? Well, winter is on its way as winter 2016-17 begins at the start of meteorological winter this December 1st. Some local forecasters have already finished their seasonal forecasts for this winter. Chief Meteorologist Joe Murgo of WTAJ in Altoona tells us what he looks at when seasonal forecasting.
I always say the key to a winter forecast lies in our oceans, so that's where I start off. I look not just for El Nino and La Nina. A lot of times people will look at that and that's the end all, but there's other places too. I like looking at the water temperatures off of the Gulf of Alaska, also the temperatures across the East Coast. A lot of times when it's above average, that helps to promote more storminess. Also look at Pacific temperatures, and that's an interesting one this year because not only are we warm near the Gulf of Alaska, it's cold underneath there.
Most meteorologists take similar approaches, as the El Nino and La Nina is one of the biggest factors that affect our winters not only in central Pennsylvania, but the rest of the world. Last year, we didn't receive much snow, especially in Happy Valley. The year was tied for the least snowiest winter on record with only 17.9 inches of snow. Average snowfall for Happy Valley should be more than double, around 45 inches for the winter season. Harrisburg, however, got most of their snow in one punch in January.
Last year, again, the big headliner was one storm. People forget that overall was fairly mild and pretty benign. This year we think there's going to be slightly more storm activity, albeit small storms, and then chances for more cold air intrusions to come through.
Another popular way that your grandparents may have gotten their winter weather forecast would most likely be the Farmer's Almanac. This year's edition was released all the way back in the beginning of August. The Farmer's Almanac has been around since 1818, long before computer models, the National Weather Service, and even before most cities started collecting their own weather data. The real question is, how legitimate is the Farmer's Almanac? Our seasoned forecasters share how legitimate it really is.
I mean, when you look at the Farmer's Almanac map, it's kind of hard to take it seriously. There's a little bit of everything sprayed across the entire United States.
I did have an intern in the past grade it, and it was wrong more times than it was right.
And now the million-dollar question. How much snow can we expect in central Pennsylvania, and how frigid will it get?
You will see a change, that things are going to be a little more active rather than having 4 or 5 dry days in a row, maybe 2 or 3 dry days in a row before the next storm event happens. That was the one thing we were trying to hit home. So we called for slightly below average or near average snowfall, which again for this area upwards of 30 inches will get you to near average for the entire mid-state.
I'm forecasting for temperatures to be pretty close to average for the entire winter season.
Who can really tell what's going to happen this winter? Only Mother Nature. For Up in the Air, I'm Marissa Lautenbacher.
Welcome back, everybody. You know, Christy, Lydia, and I just got back from AMS in Seattle this year. Christy, how did you like it?
I loved it. I learned so much that I didn't even think about in this field. I thought it was a great experience.
Yeah, same here. You know, really great experience. And Lydia also went. How did you like it, Lydia?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. I really enjoyed meeting all the different professionals in the field, and also just exploring the city of Seattle was really awesome, and just a great opportunity that we all were able to enjoy.
Yeah, and definitely. What's the current snow depth looking like out there? You know, we haven't seen much in the past month.
No, that's right. Here in Pennsylvania, we have not seen too much, but in other areas of the United States, like up and towards the northwestern regions, we've definitely seen some significant snowfall depths. Even places have seen above 36 inches. So in places such as Denver, Colorado, over into Nevada, and even portions of California and up into Washington, they've seen some significant snowfall totals, which is absolutely great for some of those ski resorts compared to last year when we really did struggle a bit with some of our snowfall amounts throughout the year. Taking a closer look at New England, though, portions of Pennsylvania, as I said, we've seen a little bit over an inch in the center county area, but I would say up and towards the northwestern region, such as Erie, has seen a bit more due to that lake effect snow that typically comes their way. And then up and towards the northeastern portions of the United States, up into Maine, New Hampshire, and even Vermont, they've definitely seen some more snowfall, between 20 to even 36 inches or more up in those regions. Our next week's weather pattern through the February 10th, you can see that this ridge this trough will be dipping down and ushering our way into Pennsylvania and up and through the northeast, and then this ridge is kind of lingering over and towards the southwestern portions of the United States, which is usually associated with warmer temperatures and fairer weather. As I said, though, that trough really will be ushering in, and so bringing us those cooler and below normal temperatures. But then as we move over into the western half of the United States, they will be seeing some much warmer temperatures, especially in areas such as Arizona and even towards the southern regions of California. Our precipitation outlook right now showing above normal precipitation expected, also due to that trough that will be dipping down, as I said, ushering in from the north, so bringing in some more precipitation for the eastern half of the United States and even up and towards the northern regions, and then down towards the southwest. That's where we see that below normal precipitation occurring from February 7th into the 13th, so right before Valentine's Day. Our drought monitor, though, definitely is not as severe as we saw last semester, where in California we often saw a lot of reds over there. So fortunately, because of that snowfall and other precipitation they've been getting out there, it's decreased a little bit. And then over towards the northeastern regions, you can see that part of Pennsylvania is still suffering from a bit of that drought, but nothing as severe as what we were seeing in the past. That's all I got at the Climate Wall. Back and over to you, Christy and Quinn.
Well, I am sure glad that that drought monitor is looking better. Thank you, Lydia.
Yeah, and that's all we have for this week's episode. I'm Quinn Lees.
And I'm Christy Stewart.
We'll see you next week up in the air.